Okay. We are on the second section on page P. After the little samach on the side, the line begins with the word sham, be-gilui, which is the fifth line from the beginning of that section. We're talking about oilamos, worlds. Specifically about the lower worlds, the created worlds, starting from Briah, going down to Yitzira, and then going down to Asiya. World by definition has a yeshus, a mitzius, and thus the oir is reduced in order to allow the yeshus to surface. And in that there are three levels. There's Briah, Yitzira, Asiya. And it says that Briah, despite the fact that it's a Briah, it's a created world, which means it's outside of AYIN Sof. Still in Briah, there's still sun shines, which means there's still the impact of the oir of Atzilus. Why? Because this is the very first creation from the oir. We did not discuss the principle behind these words. Hayesh Horishon, Sheniru Mi'ayin Oleki. What is the significance of the fact that this is the Yesh Horishon? It's a Yesh, it's a creation. What is the significance that it's a Yesh Horishon, Sheniru Mi'ayin Oleki? Everything that exists relates inevitably back to its source, because nothing exists on its own. Everything has a source, and there's a difference whether one relates to a source that is also a yesh, or one relates to a source as an ayin. That the influence of that and the effect of that is phenomenal.
How would you define yesh?
How would you
translate and define yesh and ayin?
Oh, good morning.
Too broad of a question?
No, we discuss it all the time. Again, I can discuss it from here to Dunway, but we have to. I'll give you the translation. It's meaningless. This is understood only to us because we were granted the gift of Sechel. We cannot understand it from the words that are being said. We cannot structure it enough to demonstrate it. You can demonstrate what a table is, but you cannot demonstrate what is a yesh and ayin is. Ayin, which is the most difficult part of this, is, as we describe all the time, and I'll use the simplest of all illustrations that we have used. If you have a dining room and it's empty, you immediately perceive in this dining room a table and chairs, but they don't exist. They exist at the AYIN level, on the, so to speak, on the fundamental level, on the truth level, what this whole environment is all about. This is called AYIN. This is the real presence. This is what brings a table into this room, even though a table has to be built in a craftsman. The table that's being built and brought into the room will eventually break and will have to be replaced. But this principle, the AYIN aspect of the table, it will never break.
You're saying there's a difference if the source you relate to is finite, or I guess the source. You said everything ultimately relates to its source, and then it was said as if you could relate to a finite source versus the real
That's
source.
right.
Yeah.
So we say that Briah relates is the first Yesh Horishin. So Nivra, Yesh Horishin, I'm quoting directly from the book inside. So Nivra Mihayin Eliki. In other words, what is the source of Briah? The Ayin Eliki. The force behind it is Ayin. Ayin Eliki wanted that there should be a Yesh. This gives the Yesh a phenomenal inspiration. Like we said, a physical table can break, but the concept of the table cannot break. This ayin, this yesh cannot break. It's rooted in the ayin.
So this what Briah has, we even have it in this lowest world, basically.
Eventually, yes. But Briah itself, there the ayin eliki permeates and illuminates it. This is Yeshurishin Shinibrim Yain Eliki. That's what we say, that in Briah there is still a dayin, and still the impact of the ayin, even though it's a yesh. Okay, we'll stop at this, okay? As I said, we're starting from the line that begins with sham be-gilui kolkach. In Yitzira, the oyer is not as recognized, as revealed. Therefore, the Yitzira has an element of revelation. This is what the Pasuk we say in davening. Yoitzer oyer u'voyer cheshach. Yoitzer is Yitzira. Boyer is Briah. Briah, we know, is a higher world than Yitzira. So how come Yitzira is defined as oyer and Briah is defined as cheshach? Understand the question?
I got messed up again. Briah. Why would Briah be corresponding to cheshach?
Yeah. Why do we say Yetzer Oyer V'Er Cheshach? Briah is an element of cheshach, and Yitzira is in oyer. But Briah is higher than Yitzira.
Right. Yeah. And we just got done saying it relates clearly to Elokus.
Right. And that's why it's called cheshach. Why is it called cheshach? Because to recognize and understand what Briah is, from bottom up, is impossible. It's cheshach. That's right. And that's why Briah is called cheshach, because it still has the impact of the oyer ha'eliki. Why does it have the impact? Because it's a Briah hayesh horisha shenivra mi'ayin eliki. Its source is directly ayin eliki.
Yeah. So as the impact of oyer eliki, you would say it's an illuminated world, but here we're saying it's a darkness.
It's dark. It's dark because he cannot, from a worldly perspective, he cannot understand it.
Yeah.
What is ayin?
Okay.
You cannot allude to it. We have no way of understanding it.
But see, that's not a reflection of the oilam itself. That's the reflection of our own darkness.
That's right. So Hareza Bechinas Yitzira is the oyer is not as revealed, as bright. Hareza Bechinas be-gilui gabel amato, and therefore, from a matter perspective, this is oyer be-gilui. We can know what we can relate to it and understand it much better. This is the way it is mitzad ha'oyer. Mitzad ha'kelim hu lehepech. But from the approaching it from the kelim perspective, it is the opposite. Namely, the Briah that in Briah he b'chinas miud hakelim. Briah has a reduced amount of kelim, little kelim. There is no means by which it is presented in kelim. Or be-yitzira hu ribei hakelim. In yitzira there is a ribei hakelim, then there is a multitude of kelim. And the reason for that is because the oil of Briah cannot be imbued in kelim fully. Then a yitzira is capable of being imbued in kelim. That's why in Yitzirim there is more kelim, and in Briah there is less kelim. There's more oil and less kelim. Okay, now we come to the explanation of this. Okay, and as is known, the Briah v'Yitzira hey machshava v'dibur. The Briah and Yitzira in the human experience, in the human being, correspond to machshava and dibur, thought and speech. Let me explain a little bit the principle behind this. We already spoke about it, I think, yesterday. We preempted, so to speak. In thought, any speech, you are thinking about Sechel or Midas, or you speak about Sechel or Midas. The means of presenting it, which is a machshava and dibur, doesn't compare to that which you're presenting. Sechel and Midas is a flow, is a neshama, is a living thing. But the words with which you're presenting it, machshava and dibur, are only kelim. Don't compare to the spirit that you're presenting. What's the point of this altogether? This machshava and dibur, this illustrates the concept of a creation. The way the oil is in the nefesh, the sechel as it is in the sechel level, not machshava, in the reality of the person. That seichel is a direct emanation from the nefesh. That seichel is present in the human being only because he has a nefesh, not because he has a brain, not because he is being taught anything, but because he has a nefesh. That's why he has this seichel. It's a direct reflection of nefesh, but
that cycle doesn't need a brain.
I'm sorry?
I'm asking that cycle doesn't need a brain.
That sechel, you could say that sechel does not need a brain. It's a sechel as it is in the nefesh. But then there is gilui ha-sechel. Gilui ha-sechel, this is where it becomes a koyach ha-sechel. Koyach ha-sechel doesn't need a brain. The essence of sechel, this is part of the nefesh. The nefesh is a sichli b'yetzem, as it says. Okay. This, then sechel comes to being revealed, and there are different levels of revelation. All the way to the point where the sechel actually creates a new entity called thought. And then beyond that, speech. And then beyond that, action.
Sechel per se is much superior to thought.
Oh, sure. Sechel is this is the nefesh itself. This is life itself. You can teach speech to an animal.
A parrot.
So,
but that's a brain thing.
But seichel is in the neshama. That that is not taught. That is part of the godly creation. God gave him that kind of neshama.
It said that the Sechel itself is an emanation, and then it becomes a koyach. What's the difference between emanation and a koyach?
Emanation is, as it is still, speaking of nefesh, like we said, the way it is in the AYIN, and the koyach is when it becomes a mitzias of entity that he can now be described in words.
The level of Oisius specific letters is obviously just by thought, not by Sechel.
That's right. Well, there's much to speak about it, and we cannot, so to speak, encapsulate this. Inherent in the Sechel there is the inyan that it can be put in words. This is the inyan that the oires apnimiyim. That's a much higher level.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but by Sechel, okay, but by Sechel per se, it's like mufshat from
Mufshat complete.
Oisius
Oyer, that's Sechel
definition.
poshut. Exactly.
Okay.
So, what is the similarity between Briah and Tzira and Machshava and Dibur? Machshava and Dibur, this is a creation coming from the nefesh. This is not nefesh. It's being created in a different environment.
Right.
Environment or world. And that's what Briah and Tzira is. And behold, we see the that which a person can think in thought. The miutzman with a very short time, or the miut oisius and in minimal letters. Machshava has letters, inevitably, but it's not very extensive. Then this thought comes in thought, an extension of time, an extension of letters.
Thought becomes speech.
That's when it becomes speech. So this shows us that Machshava and Dibur differ in the fact that in Dibur there is an excess and a lot of an expansion of kelim, and in Machshava there is minimal kelim. The oisius are like kelim for the Sechel. Furthermore, okay, so far it was simple, but now we have to put on our thinking caps, come back to us, to our intelligence. Oisius ha-machshava heinoisius ruchniyim. The oisius of machshava, the letters that carry the seichel in thought, are ruchnisik oisius. She'eino murgoshim al hazulaos, such that they are not sensed to the outside. Zulas is not that which is outside of the person, who is a separate person, separate entity of the person. The oisius of machshava exist only when they carry seichel. They don't exist as entities unto themselves. Oisius hadibur do exist as entities unto themselves. You can speak gibberish and stupidity, and you're speaking. You don't have to speak seichel. We all know about that one.
I was thinking about rock and roll. So. Rock song. Such that are not sensed and felt outside. Zulas means the one who is separate from you. In contrast,
the Oisios of speech, hey murgoshim al hazulas, they are felt to the zulas. You can speak, and the zulas can hear and know what you said. Starting from the Oisios, and then from this, if he has Sechel, he can derive the Sechel that the Oisios are carrying. But the first thing is, he's the Oisios. The K'moi Kein, but in similar fashion, he is Bechinas HaKelim di Briah, the aspect of Kelim in Briah. Hey, Bechinas Miud HaKelim. The Kelim of Briah are Bechinas, are in the sense of Miud HaKelim, of few Kelim. Again, I alert us to the expression Bechinas Miud HaKelim. Why not say Hey Miud HaKelim? Bechinas Miud HaKelim, it is because the Miud HaKelim in Briah are necessity. Are a necessity. That is a natural phenomenon in Briah. When you think, and you think more quickly than you speak, it's not because you're speeding up your thinking. Because you're thinking at the inception, at the level of truth. More ACS is going to interfere with that. It is tending towards reduction of K. The Hainu, which implies Miud Hayeshus V'Hametzius, the reduction of Yeshus and Metzius, because that's what Kelim are. Kelim is when the Sechel and the intelligence are reproduced, so to speak, in a manner that becomes a Yesh and a Metzius, so that it cannot be transferred to someone else, can be shown. And this is Miud HaKelim Metzius, Miud HaYesh V'Metzius. In thought, when one thinks, I want to use it, we should understand, you think of a table. You're not thinking of a table because of the form of the table. You think of the whole concept of it, instantaneously. The whole phenomenon is impressed in your mind without even realizing that there is a form to it, and that it needs room to stand. Because in thought, you think without, there's no Yeshus and Metzius. You're thinking at the level, at the Sechel level.
But don't you picture in your mind a picture of a table?
You could if you're an artist. But
most people don't?
No. You think of a table, but what is the meaning of a table? The artist also is a human being, hopefully. So he's not always thinking how to render it, but what it means. Then you're not thinking of a picture of it. V'yitziro, and then the world of Yitziro. Hu b'bchinas riboy ha'kelim. The Yitziro is b'bchinas, has a tendency towards riboy ha'kelim, towards an increase of kelim. Because if you skip one word in a speech, you miss the whole point. You have to be careful to express everything straight in words. So therefore, this is what Yitziro. Yitziro means it is now formed as a world unto itself, not as a world that emanates from AYIN, but as a world that exists outside. B'zehu hatam. This is the reason. Ma sheyichazekel marich harbe bina hamerkova. Okay, this is can come as a shock to everybody. Listen carefully. Yechezkel Hanovi, and there was prior to him was Ishaya Hanovi. Ishaya was doing the Churban Amish. Yechezkel was doing the Churban Amish. It was a different period, and his nevuah was in Golus, in Bava. Whatever it is. So Yechezkel and Ishaya both spoke of the similar experience. And namely, they both report what they saw, the Merkava, the chariot, the divine chariot. It's in Ishaya and in Yechezkel. But when you look carefully in Yechezkel Mari Harbe Binyan Merkava, he speaks at great length in the Merkava. Yeshaya, on the other hand, Eine Marich Okach. He does not speak at great length. I saw the Meibishner, and he's sitting there, and that's it. And Srofim Oimnim Malay. Hainu, and that is, Mipnei Sheyechezkel, it is due to the fact that Yechezkel Roez HaMerkava, the Elam HaYitzira. Yechezkel saw the Merkava as it is in Elam HaYitzira. Shu B'B'chinas Yivei HaKelim, which is B'B'chinas Yivei HaKelim. It sends towards Kelim. So to speak, the formulation. Ve'al Mari Behoyin, and that way he discussed it at great length, describing what he saw in Merkava. Yeshaya Roa Merkava de Briah. Yeshaya saw the Merkava of Briah. She B'B'chinas Miyud HaKelim. The Merkava of Briah is B'B'chinas, tends towards reduction of Kelim because it's pointing towards the Oyer. This is the way it is from the Kelim perspective. But then, in the reverse that we spoke originally, from the Oyer perspective, then we have the opposite. The Bebriah Meir Riboyoyer. In Briah shines Riboyoyer, an expansion of Oyer, a lot of Oyer. Again, Oyer is a very important allusion. We cannot really describe it, but I'm really anxious that we should have some sense what is meant by Oyer. So in Briah there is Riboyoyer, Meir Riboyoyer. There shines an expansion of Oyer, of a lot of impact of the AYIN. Ubitzira mismaid Oyer, and in Yitzira the Oyer is reduced. These 2 points are really interdependent. One is the cause of the other. That's what Talia means, they depend one on the other. That when the Kelim are in a mute sense, those Kelim that are B'chinas mute, that is because they are more related to the oil. They better grasp, relate to the oil. They're better Kelim for oil. They represent the concept rather than how it materializes on a practical level. That's they're Kelim Yesem, they're more Kelim for oil. The word Kelim means that it contains oil. That's what the word Kelim is. Keli is suited for the oil, to represent the oil. I want to take half a minute, just 1 second. Because we start about the time, I'm not trying to understand. Kelim Yisrael Ha'oyer. The simple illustration of, oh, thank you. I have a kelim right here. This is the kelim for water. Right? Now, water has many, many phases, many stages. Ultimately, one could say the highest, the finest element of water is drinking of water. When a person takes water, makes a bracha, and drinks, this cannot be a greater elevation. A keli for drinking water is a specific keli. You cannot bring water in a pail, and that's not called drinking water. Or the water in the mikveh is not drinking water. The water in the river is not drinking water. Although there is much more water there. But that's not the essence of water. Has not yet materialized into kelim. And kelim yoiser el ha'oyer. In other words, if you want to relate to water at the oil level, rather than at their physical state, then you need a keli that represents the oil of the kelim, of the water. So the kelim in Briah, there's less kelim, but their kelim yoiser el ha'oyer, they're much closer, they represent the oil much better. Oh, wait a second. Okay, the third line on the second page, on page .palette. Therefore, because a kelim yeshim meir shom ribei ha'oyer, that's why in Briah the oyer shines with greater expansion. Or ribei ha'kelim, but then when there is more kelim, mismaid ha'oyer. But ribei ha'kelim, the oyer is reduced.
This that they are that the one increases, the other decreases. I understand relating to these worlds, but is that necessarily so? Could you not have a case of great light with an abundance of kelim? Is that not a situation of great tikkun?
Okay, this deserves a broader discussion, but as the Rebbe points out, the answer is no.
By necessity, more kelim means less light.
That's right.
Why can they not
Because
coexist?
the pasuk says that the words of the wise are brief. The words of the fool are many. Are they dependent? The answer is yes. To express a piece of wisdom, you have to focus it in brief words. Start going in circles, you're not talking about the wisdom, you're talking about the structure of the wisdom. And here is where we have to interrupt. Have a great day. You on the line. Baruch, have a great day.